All looks good to go. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining in. I'm really excited to have Karen Grassle joining us. So,
Grassle.
Grassle, yes, sorry.
Grassle.
Grassle. Sorry, I should have checked with
Right.
that with you first.
Okay.
So Karen's known around the world for her iconic role as Ma on Little House on the Prairie and grew up in Ventura, California. Raised by hardworking people undercut by the alcoholism of her father, Karen graduated from UC Berkeley and attended the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art on the Fulbright grant. She went on to a theatre career in New York and in cities across the US. She co-wrote and starred in the TV film Battered, and she is known for her advocacy on behalf of equality for women. In the last 15 years, Karen has appeared in plays locally and out of state, as well as 3 indie films. She resides in the San Francisco Bay Area and takes pleasure in her relationship with her son, Zach Radford, and in gardening. Bright Lights, Prairie Dust is her first book. So thanks so much, Karen, for joining us. Really excited to have you. I remember as a growing up watching Little House on the Prairie and on TV in New Zealand.
Thank you so much for having me, Jackie. I'm really thrilled to be here.
Just wondering if you want to maybe start off by telling us what brought you to write Bright Lights, Prairie Dust, and maybe a little bit about it.
So I had always been interested in writing from the time I was very young. And at first I didn't know which direction I was going to go, toward writing or toward acting. But acting won me over 100%. But over the years, I kept journals and wrote the occasional column for newspaper and co-wrote Battered. And so I had kept that part of myself somewhat alive. And then when I was semi-retired and moved here to the San Francisco Bay Area, I all of a sudden didn't have as many friends and connections. And I started to have very intense memories because I was alone a lot, and I started to write them down. And I thought, well, maybe these will be of interest to my son if they don't amount to anything more than that. So I started taking a class in memoir and I just got hooked on it. I started reading bunches of them. And then a group of us formed a writing circle, and we're still meeting once a week and sharing our work with each other and supporting each other's work. And actually, my book is the third book to be published out of this group.
Oh, really? Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And did you find a little bit of therapy writing your book?
Oh, yeah. I'm sure you've heard this before. Of course, I've had more therapy than most people have had. But in addition to that, writing the book has been incredibly healing. The ways I've come to terms with my previous life, the love that I feel for my parents, and the respect I have for the way they brought us up, and the many things I have to be grateful for. It's just really settled something inside me. It's just been fantastic.
Yeah. And what sort of feedback have you got, like from your son or like other people in your family or friends growing up? And
well, the feedback regarding the book has been really gratifying. People really get it. They really get what my journey has been, what the obstacles have been, and what my efforts to overcome those obstacles has been. And so it's like getting a whole bunch of new friends.
And you work, like, most known for Little House on the Prairie. Is there something you could share with people watch it? Because I know there's a lot of people who loved the series. Something you'd like to share with us, like that you could reflect on, and that you found interesting to share with us about that time?
Yeah, sure. First of all, I was very, very glad to get that job.
Mm,
And I talk about that in the book
mm,
because I had so a lot of ups and downs in my acting career.
mm.
And I was ready to throw in the towel. And I thought, well, maybe show business isn't the right place for me. So I was thinking about going back to school, but I thought, well, I should try to get some television work to pay for that.
Yeah.
So I got new pictures, and the next thing I knew, I had an interview with Michael Landon for this new series, Little House.
Mm.
And I didn't know anything about it. I was so naive about popular culture, I didn't even know for sure which one of the brothers Mike was. So I had to say to my agent, which one is he?
Mm.
And he told me, well, he's little Joe. And I was like, oh, right, the cute little one. And the agent told me he's becoming a very good director. So I was real interested to see what would happen.
Yeah, yeah. And could you tell us a little bit about what it was like working with Michael Landon? He already was like a very popular star when you joined the show, I think, wasn't he?
Oh my goodness, he was a huge worldwide
Mm,
star. They all
mm,
were, from
mm,
Bonanza.
mm.
He told me a story about how they were in a country in Scandinavia, and it was like the Beatles. They had
Oh,
to take
really?
them out of they had to take them out of the stadium in a bakery truck, hiding,
Oh, wow.
because the fans were going so crazy about them. Yeah. Yeah, he told me a lot of stories about his earlier career.
Mm,
And he was an amazingly talented person. He could write, direct, and play the lead, which is just a phenomenal. And we established a wonderful working relationship in the first season. I had never done primetime television, so I had a lot to learn.
mm,
And Mike was patient, encouraging, and
mm,
pleased
mm,
with my work. So it was very, very demanding, but very satisfying too,
mm,
because it was going well
mm.
and because we were a hit.
Yeah, yeah. So did you eventually experience any of those levels of stardom that you mentioned Michael was having?
uh, Me personally,
Yeah.
well, the thing about the character of Ma is that everybody respects Ma.
Mm. Everyone
So
loved her.
people were not going to, try to tear off my clothes or
No.
any of those things that they do
Mm.
to some stars. Thank God. So I think I was very fortunate, to have that experience of some respect, some distance, even though people were crazy about the show, they were
Mm.
polite to me.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah.
And your dream was to be a stage actress on Broadway. How did it go from, like, how did you find moving from stage to screen?
Actually, my dream was to play many parts in many kinds of plays, whether
Mm.
that was in a repertory theater or a smaller theater or Broadway. And I had done a lot of those things. Um, but I had never been in a film. I had done some television in New York, soaps and PBS, but I had never done a film. So I wasn't sure, what that would be.
Mm.
And I found the working out of order in time, the chronology, to be very demanding. I had to constantly remind myself what has happened before and what's about to happen so that I didn't get ahead of myself, you know?
Yeah. Mm. And we've got lots of people watching, which is great. Just saying to the people watching, if you do have any questions for Karen, please type them and I can ask them. I do have one question from Kelly. Kelly wonders if you were surprised how popular the show became.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Mm,
I thought the show would be a hit. When I tried out for it and I read it, I thought it will be a hit, and I was a little reluctant to take the job because I thought, I don't want to play the same part for
mm,
3 years.
mm,
That's what I thought success would be. Well, of course, it's now going on 60 years later, and the show is on television somewhere every single
mm.
day.
Yeah.
None of us dreamed of that.
Mm,
None of us.
yeah.
No.
Pretty
But it was the
amazing.
thrill to be a hit and to be in the top 10, and
Mm,
to learn about how television works and how film acting works. And, I had so many different things to learn. I was on a very steep learning curve that first year.
yeah, yeah. And you worked on stage and sets well before the Me Too era. I'm wondering what your experiences were like with sexism in the workplace.
Well, first of all, I was told in drama school that there are 30 parts for men to every single part for a woman.
Mm,
So I knew what the odds were for being able to have a successful life in the theater. And then when I got to Little House, and I must say that when I arrived in New York, I had already graduated Berkeley. I had already had a training in London. I
mm,
had a resume from a rep company. So I was not like these young women who arrive, still teenagers, some of them, with very little experience of the world and very vulnerable to predatory people.
mm,
That was not my case because I presented already as a professional. So I think that helped to protect me from the
mm,
kind of passes that go on.
yeah.
And I also was very, I don't know, something I learned from my mother about holding myself in some reserve. So when people gave me their card and said, "Oh, I'd love to take your picture for free," I didn't call them, you
Mm,
know.
mm, yeah, that's
So
good
that was a
advice.
good beginning.
Yeah.
And then when I got to Hollywood, again, I had this background, and it seemed to me that here I was, this stage actors from New York, surrounded by these cowboys in cowboy hats and boots,
Mm,
and they stopped talking when I sat down at the lunch table and treated me, like I was very different.
mm,
And I was really like, ooh, how am I going to fit in here? And on Monday morning, they all said, "Oh, what about that play and the game on Sunday?" And I didn't even know who was playing the
yeah.
game. So yeah, it can be challenging um, because you're not one of the boys,
Mm, mm,
and that was okay. I mean, there were the kids and the boys.
mm,
So I was very happy when all our supporting players came because then I had you know colleagues. So that was good.
yeah.
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 And
But I didn't have
sorry.
any trouble with sexism
No.
on the set until I asked for a raise.
Oh, really?
And then it hit the fan.
Yeah. Mm, wow.
Yeah.
I can
And then
imagine.
I was I was punished.
Mm,
My part was diminished.
mm,
I was insulted. And it was very painful because I had felt very happy with the company and
mm,
very happy with Mike, and now that changed.
yeah.
So that was tough. That was almost 2 seasons, very tough.
And I can imagine you were only really asking to be more equally paid compared to what the males were being paid.
Well, it wasn't even about males and
Yeah.
females. It was just
Mm,
about, I mean, I knew Mike was an enormous star. I wasn't
mm,
expecting to be paid equivalent to him in any
mm,
way,
mm,
but I did want to be paid what was fair for a top 10 show.
yeah. Mm,
And that created a tremendous
mm,
kickback. Yeah,
yeah. Yeah. That's sad.
it was sad because it hurt the whole atmosphere
Mm,
of the company, you
mm,
know.
mm. And could you share with us what work you've done for equal rights for women?
Yeah, sure. I think after the first year, I wanted to do something that would relate to more troubled families. You know, I came from a complicated home, and Little House was this idealized family. But I wanted to do a movie of the week that would be more gritty,
Mm,
uh, that would show more human difficulties and challenges. So my girlfriend, Cynthia Lovelace Sears, and I started looking for material. And I came across these articles when I was on tour promoting Little House about battered wives.
mm,
And it blew my mind what the issue was, how prevalent it was, how it was through every part of our society. So Cynthia and I agreed that's what we're going to work on.
mm,
And that was our big project, to do original research and then to create a script that would convey this issue. And that's what we did.
mm,
So that was a big step forward in trying to um, take the lid off, if you will, a hidden problem,
mm,
and try to get more solutions for it,
mm.
which it did help to do. Although I must say that we still have a long way to go in
Yeah,
violence against
yeah,
women.
exactly. Yeah.
At the time we started working on that, which was the early 70s, there were only 2 shelters in the whole United States.
Wow. Mm,
Now there are shelters in almost every county, but Jackie, they're all full,
mm, mm,
you know?
yeah.
So it's across cultural lines, race lines, religions,
Mm,
everything.
yeah. Yeah, everybody. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm,
So that was a big step forward. And then when the
mm,
Equal Rights Amendment came to my attention in Hollywood, when this marvelous woman started a kind of movement in Hollywood for us to help to get the Equal Rights Amendment passed in our country, I jumped on board right away. And I worked for a number of years, um, marching, donating, going out to give talks, appearing at rallies and things like
mm.
that, trying to get the amendment into our Constitution, which it still is not.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
Mm, mm.
Do you all have an Equal Rights Amendment in your Constitution for women?
I That's probably not something that I'm not sure about the Constitution.
Uh,
Sorry, we're not.
that's
Yeah,
okay. Maybe somebody listening will
yeah,
know
we'll be
and
able to
they'll
tell
help
us. Yeah,
text you.
yeah. Um, I'm wondering how working on something like that, like so emotional, did that? drain you, or how did you handle the emotion of working on that?
Yeah, that was true. It was very emotional working on the battered
Mm,
wife story.
mm,
And both Cynthia and I began to have nightmares, and it was painful. Also, because of the parallels that I was going through on the set
mm,
of being punished and diminished and left out, um, that felt like a kind of battering too. So it was pretty heavy, but it was worth it.
yeah. I'm sure you had a lot of women coming to you and said what a difference you had made to their lives by seeing that as well.
Actually, a woman that I had gone to school with in my hometown came to me
Mm.
and told me that after she saw that film, and her husband got help and it saved their
Oh,
marriage.
really? Yeah, that's
Yeah,
great.
so that was
Yeah.
very rewarding.
Mm, mm. And Kelly wonders, who was your favorite actor or actress that you met during your career?
Well, on Little House, my favorite was Carl Swenson, who played the miller, who was such a professional,
Mm,
such a wonderful actor, and interested in everything. So whenever he was on set, we would always have interesting conversations, which was enlivening for me, you know.
mm,
I looked forward to that.
mm,
And then, of course, Catherine McGregor, who played Mrs. Olson, and I became very good
mm,
friends. And we had so much fun with
mm.
our egg scenes. You know, we just loved getting into those fights and
Yeah.
sparring off with each other.
Yeah, yeah. And Laurie wonders what the most exciting place you've visited for through your work.
Oh, hmm, hmm. Um, gosh, I don't know. I've been so lucky to get to travel a lot of places.
Yeah.
When I first got my grant to study in London, I had never been in a major European city ever. So everything was a thrill to me.
Mm,
And then when I moved to New York to pursue my acting career, that was just overwhelming. That was New York in the 70s, which was pretty dangerous. And it took me about a year to get so that I could comfortably read a book on the subway
mm,
without feeling that I needed to, look around. So that was very challenging, but also thrilling because of the art, because of the availability of culture and the other artists that
mm,
we, connected with and shared meals with and encouraged each other.
mm, mm. And Laurie wonders if you've received any negative backlash for the honesty when you from the honesty in your book.
That's such a good question.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that some people are very disappointed
Mm,
um, because I do expose the fact that Little House on the Prairie set was not a perfect place.
yeah.
But this isn't the life of Little House on the Prairie.
Mm,
This is my life.
mm,
And so I have to tell my story. And my story has a lot of complications. I suffered from depression. I
mm,
suffered from alcoholism. My father died of
mm.
alcoholism. So my story is darker, maybe, than people wanted it to be. I think some people are mad at me about that. And
Yeah.
it's too bad, but
Yeah.
this is my life. And I
Yeah.
think because I tell the truth, because I make myself vulnerable to the kinds of mistakes I've made in my life and the kinds of
Mm,
challenges I've had in my life, that maybe that will give other people hope who are having a challenge in their life.
Exactly, yeah.
Um,
And Laurie also said that kudos to you for speaking your truth, and she aspires to do more of that in her life.
Thank you. I think
Yeah.
it's hard.
Yeah.
You know, yesterday I had to tell somebody something that was hard to tell them. And I had to really collect myself and try to find the right words. And then when I was speaking, I started to shake. You know, it's a this thing of wanting to just please everybody. You know, I think it's very female for one thing.
Yeah.
You know, so the good girl is just shaking in her boots over here.
And Nicole wonders if you're still in contact with any of the cast members.
Oh, yes, yes, indeed. And in fact, quite a number let me send the book to them so they could read it in the early stage and give me quotes to put in, you know, in praise of the book. And then this week, Wendy Lou and I had a live meeting on her YouTube.
Oh.
She goes live and she has followers who spend time with her. And so we set this up so that I could come on. And it was so gratifying. I mean, I remember holding her as a little baby,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And now we're making friends as adult professionals, you know?
And Kelly's wondering, like now compared to when you were doing the show, do you still get a lot of recognition and fans contacting you now?
Actually, I get a fair amount of fan mail still.
Yeah.
And I did put a post office box on my website in case people wanted to get an autograph for their book. They could send me a receipt and I'll write back a personalization and an autograph for them that they can paste into their own book.
Yeah.
Because the shipping is so expensive now.
And how have you gone, like at the moment with COVID and that, how have you gone with promoting your book? What sort of things have you been able to do?
Well, it certainly has been challenging,
Yeah.
not being able to go out, you know, and do a book tour and all that. And it's been very hard on the independent bookstores, I know. I was lucky that we were in kind of a quiet period during pub date. So I was able to have my book launch in a local bookstore.
Great.
A friend of mine and I did it together. She interviewed me, and we had over 100 people, and it was fun and funny and lively. We had snacks and drinks outside. We couldn't bring any of that in because of masking. But because at that time, this was before Omicron.
Yeah.
We were experiencing a lull because in the Bay Area, a lot of people are vaccinated and wear masks. So we were having a lull and we thought we were, you know,
On the
heading
way
out
back.
of it.
Yeah. We were the same here as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Kelly wonders if you have any plans to write or co-write any more scripts or shows.
You know, right now I'm just letting myself fill up again. It's been so thrilling to release the book. But it's also required a lot of what we're doing now, you know, being out, energy that goes out. And so over the holiday period, I was quiet a lot and cooked, and my son came for 2 or 3 holiday meals, and I slept and read and watched some movies, just took it really slow because I need to kind of reconnect with my imagination.
Yeah. Mm. And could you share with us what accomplishment you're most proud of?
Well, I don't know. I'm I'm discovering now with the launch of the book
Mm.
how much the character of Ma has meant to people,
Yeah. Mm.
which I never understood before.
Mm.
I mean, I knew people like Ma,
Mm.
people like the show, they love the show, okay. But I never knew the level of depth that people's affection is for this character.
Mm. And
And you
after
just,
so long as well, to be able to realize that now as well must be amazing.
yeah,
Yeah.
I never would have known if I hadn't
Mm.
released the book, I think.
Mm.
So it's been incredible for me because, as I said, there were days when it was not easy to go to work.
Mm.
And I write about that in the book.
Mm.
So the fact that I took on the challenge of showing up anyway and holding my head up and doing the
Mm.
best job I could do to keep Ma alive, now I get the payoff.
Yeah, yeah. And someone, Mary said, you did an amazing job acting, now knowing now how you actually felt at the time. It's amazing to see. Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, and I'm very happy that we did the movie Battered.
Mm.
That had its challenges too, as far as
Mm.
getting it on, but very, very rewarding.
Yeah. And you mentioned like you are going to take some time out to relax a bit and that after writing your book. What sort of things do you like to do to relax? I think we mentioned gardening, didn't we?
Yeah, I like to read
Yeah.
and I like to garden, and I like to see friends
Mm.
and talk, and I like to go to movies. And right now it's difficult,
Mm.
but this new movie of the Scottish play with Denzel Washington, I don't know if you guys have it over there yet, but I was able to make reserved seats for it in a large movie house.
Mm.
And I was able then to go on to their website and see whether it was going to be crowded or not.
Ah, so you could show, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So we were the only ones with reservations.
Oh, wow. That's great.
So we
Yeah.
went, and the movie theater had about 7 people in it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The whole movie theater was like
Yeah.
having a private screening.
Yeah.
So, we were able to get out, which was fun.
Yeah. No, that's good. And
Yeah.
could you tell us what do you like? Like, have you got a favorite author?
Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Well, he's hard to beat, right?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I'm reading now. I'm reading George Saunders' book called A Swim in a Pond in the Rain.
Okay, I haven't heard that one.
Well, it's a book in which he basically shares the class he gives in the short story. And he bases it on 4 famous Russian writers.
Mm.
And in the book, he prints the whole of 4 stories, and then he analyzes it the way he would in the classroom. And so it's not really a book that you just sit down and read. It's more like a book I'm studying,
Yeah.
because he's a wonderful writer. And his insights are just like, oh, yes, oh, okay. So that I feel enlivened when I read that.
Mm.
Another book that I just picked up recently, because I just felt that spiritually I needed more fresh eyes. And, you know, I read something spiritual every day, but I just felt like I needed something fresh. So I bought this book by Norman Fisher, and he has written this book based on the Odyssey. It's called Sailing Home, and he uses the Odyssey as a text for exploring all of our need to feel connected, you know, to our past,
Wow, that sounds,
to the greater spirit, you know. Yeah.
No, thanks for sharing those. Just wondering before we finish off, do you want to share with anyone watching who's thinking of writing a memoir themselves any tips or anything you'd like to share?
Absolutely. I'd love to. First of all, I encourage you to do it. And then to find the support you need for it. For me, taking a class was very, very good because it gave me a way to think about it. Because I was completely at sea. I had no idea. And then if you can be in a support group with other writers, this has made all the difference. Because I would write something, for example, when I wrote about what it was like to train as an actress in London, I thought, no one is going to want to read this. And then one of my writer colleagues said, I love that part. So I was like, oh, well, maybe, you know, maybe that's good then. Maybe it needed to be shorter, but.
Well, thanks so much for joining us. It's been really, really great talking to you. And thanks for sharing.
Thank you very much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
And thanks for the people who joined in. We had some great questions. And before we went live, you mentioned to me you've never visited Australia and New Zealand before. So I really do hope you get a chance one day to come down and visit us down here.
Thank you. From your mouth to God's ears.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.